in 1320 Kings Insider, and creator of the Kings Beat, James Ham. James, Kings Lakers tonight, man, just like old times. I don't know. 2 below 500 teams going at it. This has strong 2002 vibes here. We were talking about this in all seriousness. We were talking about this earlier. Kings play their game. This isn't close. The Lakers are a bad basketball team. They're playing without LeBron James tonight. They might be without Anthony Davis, who was sent home from shoot-around. And, stuff has to go wrong for them to lose this one tonight.
Well, that's what you always think. But then that's not usually reality. Like, look, I think this is, I was joking with Mike Brown at the postgame the other night, and I said, if you had any hair, you've got to be pulling it out. Every single game is so incredibly close. The only game that's above 10 points, a double-digit loss, was the Grizzly game where they lost by 15. Every other game, I think, is within 7.
And I'll be honest, because that's come up a couple of times. I don't think that Grizzlies game was that bad, especially the first half. I thought they were really aggressive. I thought they were doing some things right. But I think that, the Kings Herald crew pointed this out. They basically lost every quarter by like 4 or 5 points. And then that's what added up to, 15 at the end. But I thought for the most part, they had played well enough, at least for a while, to win that game until it was obvious that they weren't.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't think it was a blowout by any stretch of the imagination. But my point would be that the other 9 games are really close. Mm-hmm. And so Mike Brown is like sitting there like white-knuckled, having to coach for his life every single moment of every game. And it would be nice to just absolutely thump somebody. Yeah. Just go out there and let it fly. Just
put your foot on their neck.
Run someone over and turn a 2-9 team or whatever the Lakers are that could eventually wake up and get right back in this. Stomp on them. Show them that you don't want them to get back in the race, and give them a little more incentive not to get back in the race. And that's what I hope that the Kings do. Can they do it? I don't know. They certainly have the talent. They certainly have the offensive firepower. But you just can't get into this, back and forth track meet where you're just giving up easy baskets and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I really do think that the Kings are going to come out and take it serious, and then hopefully, give Mike Brown a little bit of breathing room for one night.
I think so too. I think they're going to handle business tonight. I think they're going to come into this game thinking, which they should, hey, if we come out there and defend, this can be, an early night for us. Get some other guys in there, get some other guys some reps. And I think that's the key to what they're doing. Much like what you just talked about. Defensively, don't give them anything easy. Don't let them feel good about themselves. Don't let Lonnie Walker or Matt Ryan or Austin Reeves gain some confidence. Take care of them early and let your offense do what it does, because what we're seeing, James, is they're going to score the basketball. The Kings, they're going to score. That's something they seem to do in their sleep. But defensively, if they can lock in, I think they can make this an early night for themselves.
Yeah, I hope so. And even Lonnie Walker is questionable with a non-COVID related illness. You brought up Lonnie Walker. This team is...
There's a lot of non-COVID illnesses going around the Lakers. Jeez.
Yeah, Thomas Bryant is, tore his UCL. Dennis Schroeder is dealing with a UCL repair as well. This team is beat up, and you got to take advantage. And let's be honest, the Lakers have no depth once you get past the 3 stars on that team. And I mean, we can debate, me and D'Lo here can debate whether you can still consider Russell Westbrook a star. But once you get past those 3,
spent $140 on his clothing line this morning. He's definitely still a star.
He's not at that Ross level yet. He's not at that. That's coming, bro. It's coming.
I assure you, as someone who's been on that website way too much, that's not happening.
He ain't going to the bench in that world.
He is
I
not.
mean, come on now.
No.
Like even when he stared me down after Western Conference Finals when they were up 3-1
I
and
can
then
believe
He
that.
probably deserved it.
he stared me down and all I could think was, "Hey, bro, you're wearing like the Dare Leak shirt. Like
Well,
that's straight up Zoolander that you're wearing like at your post game."
hold
So I don't know.
on, time out. How did this happen?
Hothead ham.
How did this happen? I gotta
Hothead
hear
ham continues.
I was down covering the Western Conference Finals as part of my job, covering the Warriors and covering the opposition most of the time. And I raised my hand, and I was the last one to ask a question. And it's okay. So OKC, they were up 3-1, and at that point, I think it was game 6, and they had blown 2 games, and the Warriors had tied it up. I think that's how the series went. I was the last question, and I asked. It was KD and Russell Westbrook together at the podium. I said, like, the last 3 games, you guys have combined for 59 shots in each game, and that's only leaving like a handful of shots for the rest of your teammates. Is it possible that you guys are too focused on trying to win and not getting your teammates involved? And they kind of both looked at each other, and then Russ just stared at me, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And Kevin Durant answered the question, and I thought his answer was okay. Like, yeah, maybe we're not doing a great job of getting everyone else involved, and maybe it's something we have to look at. But in the heat of the moment, it is what it is, whatever. And then that was it. That was the press conference was over. Well, Russ, staring at me from the podium, got up, walked down the stairs, staring at me the whole time, walked all the way down, past all the chairs, staring at me the whole time, and then walked out the door. He was not happy with that question at all. And I was like, it's a legitimate question. Like they were only getting like 72 shots a game or something. So, like, if you're on a team with 2 guys who are shooting 60 shots,
James, what NBA player have you not picked a fight with?
all of them. I pick a fight with all of them. So when we're done
I'm
there,
sorry. Okay, are they just guards? Because we got Jacques Vaughn on the
They
hit
just
list.
guards.
We got Russell Westbrook.
yeah, like maybe I don't pick fights with 6'11" guys. That's possible, but there were times where Boogie wanted to punch me. But so I walked out of the media room, and KD was standing there talking to our good friend Sam Amick. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give this a sec and wait for them to get done. They're having a one-on-one conversation, and I walked up to Durant. And I'm like, hey man, like I wasn't trying to start anything with you there. I just it was literally a question. I'm looking at all the box scores. And I'm like, it was exactly 59 shots 3 games in a row, and he's like, it's a very fair question. He's like, but from the moment that I step foot in this franchise, they want me shooting every single time I touch the ball. And he's like, it's a lot of pressure, but that's it. They want me shooting every single time. And like 59 shots between the two of us, there's someone there that probably that wasn't enough for. And I'm like, okay. But it also told me that he felt it, that the whole world was on his shoulders. Whether he made a shot or missed a shot, it was on him. And that's really difficult. That when you're playing a team game and every single shot it means so much in a series like that. And in all honesty, I looked at him, and in that moment, I'm like, oh, he's not coming back. That was the year he left and went to the Warriors and started with the Warriors the next year. But it was that moment where I was like, oh no, like you can feel it. He wants to be part of a team. He doesn't just want the Kevin Durant show, because he knows that, like, in the end, he's going to be the one that got blamed for a 3-1 deficit. They're up 3-1 and they blow it. And yeah, really, really interesting. Like, but you have to ask questions. You have to ask tough questions. It's not always easy. And I know, like, some people don't like when I ask questions of Terrence Davis, or I ask questions about, Buddy Hield playing in the fourth quarter when he was 0 for 13 for the game or something. And like, that's the job, though. We have to go in there and hit them with questions. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's not. It just depends on what's happening during the play. But you do have to actually ask these guys questions that matter.
just for old time's sake, you should ask Mike Brown tonight. Hey, what would you have done if Buddy Hield was 0 for 13 in the fourth quarter? Would you have benched him or would you have played him?
I'll tell you, I feel bad. Like I had a good relationship with Luke Walton, right? With almost every coach, I've had a good relationship with in their time in Sacramento. I'm a guy who is a basketball junkie. I think basketball. If you get me off to the side and we're actually like talking basketball, like I can hold my own in a basketball conversation with coaches, because I've done this for so long and because I love the game and all that stuff. So like I do end up having relationships with some of these coaches because they understand that they can talk basketball with me, and they can't talk basketball with everyone. They can talk media basketball, but they can't talk like regular everyday basketball. And so I've had good relationships with, again, with Paul and with almost every single coach that's come through. But Luke and I, we talked quite a bit. Like we talked off the record, like we have each other's phone numbers. Anyway, I felt bad because I'm limping around everywhere. I'm not mobile at all. I came from the studio straight to the game the other night, and when I got there, I didn't have time to go down and say hello to Luke before the game because I forgot he was with the Cavs. Well, I didn't forget he was with the Cavs. It just didn't lock in that the Cavs were in town, that Luke would be back. And so anyway, I missed him in pregame. I tried to scurry over in postgame. I missed him again. But yeah, it's a bummer because you
Now Luke thinks you hate him.
Wow.
No, I text him. Yeah, I said, hey man, sorry I missed you. But like when you cover somebody for 200 and well, I guess it wasn't that many, 144 plus 17, 161 games, but you cover them every day and you're there at every practice. Like there is like camaraderie and stuff between everybody, and it's good to see people when they come into town. And the Cavs come into town once a year, so like again, I won't see Luke again in Sacramento for another year if he's still an assistant there next year.
What do you think about Wednesday's game? I thought they played really well. You can make the argument that they, let off the gas or didn't play really well and end up losing the lead, but they fought back to get the victory. Looking back on it now, without I feel like any of the emotion, I thought they played really well on Wednesday. And part of Cleveland coming back was the fact that Cleveland is one of the best teams in basketball. That's going to happen. They were able to weather it and then come away with the win. I was really impressed with how the Kings played.
I thought there were so many good moments in that game. I really do. I think that there were a ton of good moments in that game for the Kings, for everybody, like on their roster. Mike Brown, I thought had good moments. And it's good to win a game like that where you're playing a top-notch team. And, I'll get to the fourth quarter and, we're sitting there like, why in the world is De'Aaron Fox not on the court? I think everyone at home is watching and wondering the same thing. Like from the 9-minute mark of the fourth all the way down to like the 2-minute mark, like, man, you really could use him to put this game away. And I thought that Mike Brown, we're learning from Mike Brown that there are moments where he's going to coach and he's going to teach at the same time. And if it cost him, it cost him. But the long-term development of some of his players means more than anything else. He can work out the differences with De'Aaron Fox and why he didn't play that 7 minutes in the fourth. But what that meant for Davion Mitchell was so much more. And he allowed a young player who has not found his stride with his team this year to sit there and do his thing, to get comfortable, to play defense on an exceptional offensive player, come up with some big stops, do his thing. And it's moments like that we've seen translate with guys like Chimezie Metu or Trey Lyles, or even sticking with Malik Monk early in the season. So I really like that not only are we seeing like a victory, which is great, they moved to 4-6, that's great. But if they lost to the Cavs and dropped to 3-7, I don't think they would have been like, look, we expected the Kings to pretty much go 3-7 the first 10 games of the season because the Cavs are really, really good. But they got the win, but more importantly, Mike Brown was able to bolster a young player, have him find his niche for a game, and hopefully that will carry over and be like a moment for Mitchell for him to keep, improving.
That win against Cleveland, Kenny and I have had this discussion over the last week or so about coaches love to, and Mike's done it this year. Talk about we got to play 48 minutes, we got to play 40 minutes. You hear it in football, guys. Got to play. We got to play 60 minutes. Game 60 minutes. Rarely do you actually see that happen. Was this the closest to a 48-minute game that we've seen from the Sacramento Kings this season?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think everything went perfect. But again, it's about growth, getting Harrison Barnes back, like on the right side of everything. Like having him show up and be good, having Keegan Murray have huge shots, big moments. And then I even we just recorded a new episode of the Kings Beat, which will go up in a little while. But I thought one of the really interesting things when you're watching that game was that Malik Monk had such a noisy 15 points. Like all you thought about that game was Malik Monk. Like the acrobatic layup that he had, the 3-point shots that he had. Like he just has this flashiness to him. And at the same time, Trey Lyles outscored him. And it was like the most quiet. When he got to 13 points, I'm like, Trey Lyles has 13 points? When did that happen? And so, I think it's like every game has its own sort of identity. But when you're watching games play out and you just ignore what's happening with certain players because you're not even paying attention to what they're doing or they don't stand out enough, and then they end up having really good games. I thought that game was, there's so many good pieces to it. Again, the Harrison Barnes thing, the Keegan Murray looking more confident and finding his rhythm, and things are improving for him off the court, and so you're seeing it play out on the court. All of these little pieces, Davion, and I thought it was just a really, really good 48-minute team win.
Yeah, I thought you look at the numbers and you see how many guys scored in double figures, and we talked about this yesterday, where it used to be a death sentence for this team if De'Aaron Fox didn't, quote unquote, go off. He had 15 the other night, and it was perfectly fine. I mean, obviously you want him to score more, but it was fine. He had other guys around him that could pick up the slack, and that allowed him to make sure that he was distributing the ball the right way or playing defense at the end on Donovan Mitchell. And that's something that we haven't seen from this team in a while, where De'Aaron Fox doesn't have to go off for 30 against one of the top teams in the NBA for them to have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain games where Fox is going to need to be that guy, right? There are games where you're going to need Fox to just destroy somebody. And what was it, the game where he scored 28 in the second half in overtime session? Orlando. Yeah, without Fox in that game, you lose by 15.
Right.
But then there's other nights where he's doing other things, and like in that game, 15 points, but he had 8 assists. Like he would have easily had a double-double if he would have played the minutes that, especially in the fourth quarter. But it's been in the games where he doesn't score and he's not going crazy that this season specifically, I think he's been the best. Not like, again, the Orlando game, that's his best game of the season. But I'll point to the game, the Warriors game, where, he was sitting on the bench, watched his team come back, get themselves in the game. And then when he checked in, he didn't check in and think, oh, it's a De'Aaron Fox show. He played within the flow. He helped everybody. He was a facilitator. He was really good all around. And it's that moment. Is it the Charlotte game? I think it's Charlotte where they got the win. But again, he didn't put up big numbers, but he put up which game did he have 13 rebounds? That wasn't Charlotte.
That was the first Heat game, wasn't it?
Yeah, Miami.
Yeah,
so the game where he had 13 rebounds, but also I think it was Charlotte where he didn't have huge numbers, but he had like his points. And
he got hurt that game. That's the end.
Oh, yeah. You're right. But it's those games where you're starting to see that he can make an impact, and also he can give a team what they need on a given night. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I haven't really felt like with Fox for a long time. There are games when Harrison Barnes goes, man, we're getting killed on the glass, and he'll go get you 8 rebounds. And there are games where you can tell Harrison's like, the pace of the game is great, but we're exhausted and we're taking bad shots. So he'll go get to the free throw line like 6 or 7 times and, go shoot 6 or 7 free throws. Like he'll just keep going at the rim and getting the foul to slow the game down for a sec. And that's where Harrison Barnes has this tremendous value as a veteran, that he's smart enough to know what his team needs each and every night. Well, when we get to Fox, I think we're starting to see him realize, like, maybe tonight I don't have to go for 30. Maybe tonight it's okay if I score 17, but I grab 13 rebounds, or I dish out 11 assists, and I carry this team in a different way. And I think it's really good to see. It's good to see, like, the maturation of De'Aaron Fox, to him becoming a leader, not just a leading scorer, but more of a leader that understands what his team needs each night.
Last season, De'Aaron Fox in games where he scored 17 and under is 3-15. There have been 3 games this year that he scored under 17, and the Kings are 3-0.
It's a good stat.
I don't know what that means, but that
means they got a better roster.
That's a hell of a stat.
For the first time, maybe in his career.
Not maybe.
Definitely.
First time in his career.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. The roster is much better from top to bottom. And, like, I was writing the other day, comparing, again, the Kings to making chili. And, like, this team is still...
you really love that analogy.
Yeah.
I was so happy to open that email like, oh, this will be good.
Yeah, so, but we got to the end of that email, to the end of that piece, and, like, in all honesty, like, Monty McNair needs to go to the store. There's a couple more ingredients that are missing. Like, this isn't just right. And it's close, but it's just not, it's not all the way there. And I know you can give it more time to simmer, but you can also tell that it's...
But the good news is Monty hasn't spilled it on the floor yet.
No, that's true.
Office reference.
Yeah.
This is all an Office reference. The
whole thing is an office reference. I actually posted the video of Kevin dropping it on the floor.
Yeah. and oftentimes it's Monty or Vlade or whoever taking the manila folder and trying to scrape the chili back into the pot off of the floor.
That's right. A lot of the time it's someone else making the mistake. And I'll even say, like, Harrison Barnes feels like he's the onions of this mix. You got to leave the onions a little undercooked so they can blend together, but it feels like he's the guy that is still waiting to really know who he should be for this team. And that might be what's happening here, where he just doesn't know each and every night, like, how he's supposed to fit. And
too far in his own head then.
Of course.
You've been doing this for a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, professionally for a decade. You've been doing this your whole life. Play ball.
Yep.
You see the lane, take it. If you see a shot,
he's too smart. Yeah. Like he's too smart and he's too good. There's more I want to talk about, James. I want to talk about Mike Brown as well, as my love fest for Mike Brown continues. First, want to do 2 things. Want to give away tickets to see the Sacramento Kings in Brooklyn on national television, where we need to be showing out at the Golden One Center. Show everybody in Indiana what the culture is like out here in Sacramento. So we've got tickets for you right now. Call on number 3-916-909-1320, and we'll get you inside the Golden One Center for the Sacramento Kings and Brooklyn, coming up on TNT on Tuesday. Also, big shout out to Justin. And when I say big, I mean very big. Justin Singh, 4 hoodie purchase over at DLoandKC.com. You can use the promo code KingsWin to grab your D-Lo&KC merch. Again, DLoandKC.com. We'll come back. We'll talk a lot more about Kings basketball. I think you've been rechristened in the chat. James Beef, the creator of the Kings Beat. It's James Ham here on ESPN 1320.
Amazing.
James Beef.
At our house, we make a sweet chili. I know that sounds a little strange, but we use pineapple and
I don't even like chili.
Diced green chilies.
Jazz makes some chili that I actually like, but I don't like beans, so it's usually where it's like, hey man, I don't need all this.
Chipotle Tabasco. Yep.
Jazz made some that, like, it was a hard line stance. Like, I don't eat chili. And then she made some not too long ago. I was like, this is cool.
So cool. It wasn't really a hard line stance if she did it anyways.
Well, I mean, she made it, and she didn't make it for me. Her and Reese like it. They were like, well, we gonna make some chili. And I was hungry, and I was like, all right, let me try some of this. And it was cool. Like, I think I had 2 bowls. It was good.
I might make some tonight.
She can make anything. She can make mud taste good.
Oh, I'll take your word for it.
I came home. The wife had made a pot roast the other night, but I think she made it like a really interesting, like some sort of Instagram recipe or something that ended up being really good.
I really want to host Thanksgiving because I want to smoke a turkey. I want to try that for my family.
Oh, there you go. Well, you can do Christmas Day for that too.
I
We
think-
always host Christmas Day. We don't host. Well, we host Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. We told everyone when our boys were little we're not traveling. Yep.
There you go.
Will Z puts pineapple in his chili. Yeah, we also use low brown sugar.
I don't know. I'm against hot pineapple. I think that's the big thing with pizza, chili, whatever. I think I'm against hot pineapple.
All right.
Yeah. I'm
Hot
against it.
pineapple.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have it on the pizza or anything like that.
No, I'm against that.
Well,
Well,
the
I
pineapple
think-
you don't even see. It's all blended in the chili. It breaks down. It's just a natural like sweetener. But don't do the syrup one. You got to do the one in water. Like do crushed, throw it in
Oh, so
there.
you're not like cutting like actual pineapple.
No, I use a can of crushed
Okay.
crushed
Gotcha.
pineapple, but like a small can, not a big can.
Gotcha.
And diced green chilies are one of the greatest things ever. And Chipotle Tabasco is really one of the best things ever.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
At
That's
Chipotle last
incredible.
night.
So was it
Stuff.
Chipotle that screwed up your order a week ago?
Chipotle.
Oh, okay.
No. Chipotle, they don't. No, Chipotle would never do that to me because you don't.
Well,
order
also,
nothing.
yeah, like that
Yeah.
would be ridiculous. Yeah, that would be too
Although
quick.
you
to,
can, like, you can call in a Chipotle order. And then
yeah,
they'll pick it up.
but even if they didn't get it, like you, okay, well, fucking make it now. Do it right now. There's no one here. Make my food.
You want to know who it was?
Yes.
Because this is an indictment on the company. It was just that particular night. It
Mhm.
was Wingstop.
Well, how'd the party go after I left?
Oh,
Good.
They were hanging. with
Yeah,
chandeliers.
it went down. There were a lot of people absent yesterday. Lot-
Today,
well, there's a decent number of people here.
there's more than I thought. would
Yeah,
be there.
there was a lot of aspirins on the table the next day. But yeah, it went. I don't know. Everybody, I think it served its purpose. Stacy sent a 20-page email thanking everybody for it today. So, yeah, I think it went off well, and it was fun. I mean,
Nice.
it was
I think
fun.
that's like everything else. I didn't get the email.
yeah.
You always say, "Oh no, you got to just check your email." I'm like, "No, I didn't get it."
It's because I think what happens is when they send to there's a Sacramento distribution list, and I think there's one of the distribution lists you're not on.
Yeah.
And they said, let us know if anyone's missing. And I said, hey, James isn't on this list. And clearly,
They did not rectify that. That's funny.
James, I'll save it. I'll save you.
Even Gilbert got, Gilberto got CC'd. Yeah. Not me.
So
Gilberto.
I don't think I've ever had smash burger, guys. I don't think I've ever had it, so I couldn't tell you. Although I'm willing to try it, I'm always down for a good burger.
What were your guys' thoughts on these questionable city jerseys? Not the Kings, but the other ones.
Well, it was very, very questionable. Actually, there was no question. Why'd you do that?
What did, like the Cream City last year is like, what are you doing? And this year they're like, oh, gigantic flowers on the lower half of a jersey look great.
Yeah, that was really trash by the Warriors. Who thought of that one?
I don't know.
I like some of them though. Like I said, I like the Grizzlies, the Knicks. The Knicks always stay with like this black jersey. They do a good job with that. I liked a good number of them, but there's a couple that were just they were ugly. Or what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Aldrin likes Charlotte.
Yeah, that Charlotte jersey.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Aldrin, I want you to read what you wrote. again.
Read it out loud.
Read it.
Read it out loud.
Hang on, James. Just gonna go ahead and.
It's like dealing with a sophomore class.
Damn city uniforms. Welcome back, 1320 Kings insider James Ham for this final run here on this Friday. It's the Sacramento Kings and the Los Angeles Lakers at the ungodly tip-off time of 7:30.
Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go, baby.
It's not even D'Lo's bedtime.
Tip-off time is like 7:40 something.
Like I said, they should do a midnight madness.
That's dumb.
Do it at 11:30.
You know what that would be? That would be 7 a.m. madness for me. It wouldn't even be 7, it'd be 8 when I get back from the walk with the dog. I'll watch it then.
I'd go. I'd be there.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Alone. You wouldn't be with me. So yeah, Kings Lakers tonight. James, I came in following the Cleveland game, and you actually set the table for this beautifully, talking about De'Aaron Fox and Davion Mitchell and kind of how things were going there in the fourth quarter. And I just thought that was a masterful job of coaching by Mike Brown. And when you look at how he handles guys like, Trey Lyles and Chimezie Metu, and in the same breath, Terrence Davis, who had played really well the night before, didn't get any run versus Cleveland. And I feel like Mike has done an incredible job of managing those like 8th, 9th, and 10th rotational spots. And for me, Cleveland, the win against Cleveland was kind of the exclamation point on the job that Mike Brown has done through the first 10 games of the season.
Yeah, I think even like in post game when Mike was really honest and just said like, look, I'll put it on myself. A lot of these early games have been him and his staff also just not knowing the team. Like what do you do when the lights are on? Is what he kind of alluded to. Like, we can see guys play in practice so much, but like what happens when like a real game is being officiated and we either win or lose. And he said that he hadn't been good enough, and some, like his players, he's still figuring them out, like who works with who and how does this and he's finally starting to get a little comfortable about, what he can depend on each and every night or what he's looking for each and every night. And that means sometimes, again, if Trey Lyles didn't have it, then Terrence Davis probably would have played. Karis LeVert was good. I didn't think he was great, but I think he was good. He finished with like 21 points and 10 rebounds. He was like at one point like looked like a triple-double machine. But what you're looking for in each game is like, what is the ingredient that's missing? How do I figure this game out? And I think Mike Brown is finally starting to look at his team and know who can give him what. And that's huge. And it's going to pay dividends down the road. And he keeps saying this, but I'll keep saying it too. There are going to be hiccups. Like they could lose to the Lakers and people are going to be, oh, I can't believe this happened. Well, it happens. Like this is the NBA. Like there are professional athletes on that team that you're going to go up against. And one of them can go crazy and you can lose a game. But at the same time, the longer he gets to like figure this team out and they get to figure him out, the better. I talked to Davion in the locker room after the game, and like he just like game 86, right? That was game 86 for him last night. This is his third head coach. Like in one night, this is so crazy. All three of his head coaches were in the building.
That is
like
nuts.
You're looking around like there's Alvin Gentry. Hey, there's Luke Walton. Hey, here's Mike Brown. Like all three of his head coaches. And I will honestly tell you, every single one of those three has asked something completely different from him. And so as a young player, you're confused about what your role is, how you're supposed to fit in, what's expected. And people can tell you, well, this is what's expected. And it's like, well, am I supposed to throw all that other stuff out that was expected by someone else? It's like, well, no, some of that stuff is still expected of you. And so you get confused as a young player about what you're supposed to do, and you let it get in your head and you start over dribbling and you miss shots that you shouldn't miss. But at the end of the day, he has to figure out how he fits, and Mike Brown has to figure out how he can make Davion successful. But before he could do that, he had to figure out how to make De'Aaron and Sabonis successful. He had to figure out how to make Kevin Huerter successful with those three. He had to figure out how to get Malik Monk going as that bench player. He had to figure out whether Keegan Murray should come off the bench or start. He had to figure out what in the world is happening with Harrison Barnes. Like, eventually Mike Brown and his staff will get to Davion. They'll get to how do we figure out how to get Rashawn Holmes back into this rotation and make him successful. They'll figure out whether Chimezie Metu belongs there or not. They'll figure out whether Trey Lyles can give them that, and then they'll figure out what it is that they need to go to Monty McNair and say, hey, look, I need these two things. Go get me those two things, please. And hopefully Monty can go get those things for him during the season, between now and December 15th or before the trade deadline. But like, I really do like the direction that we're kind of seeing from some of these guys and how they're piecing it together on the fly and figuring out, again, what the team looks like in the daylight, like when the game is on, when the lights are on, and when it matters.
I agree with you. I think Mike is doing a great job, keeping these guys together and working through, that 0-4 start. That was pretty tough. One of the things I thought he did a great job with on Wednesday, I don't want to ask you, did you think Fox was getting back in the game at the end of the game on Wednesday? Because Davion, he had found something with Davion guarding Donovan and then ended up guarding Garland as well. And that group was playing well. And it looked like Fox was, he was on the bench and he was good, not okay with being on the bench, but he wasn't making a big fuss about it. I wasn't sure he was going to get back in the game, but obviously he did.
Yeah, you know what? Like, every game, again, it has its own identity. Every game, and you're looking for something. I thought it was interesting that Mike said, like, look, it's a teaching moment. We're trying to make sure that Fox knows he's got to be a really good two-way player. And I didn't really think that a lot of Donovan Mitchell's scoring was on Fox. Maybe I'm wrong. But I looked at Darius Garland, who went like 1 of 9 from the field, and I thought Fox did okay. So I was intrigued by that, but at the same time, that, to me, it wasn't about Fox at all. It was all about Davion. It was about empowering a young guy against a player who he's played well against in the past. Whether you coached, Davion Mitchell against Donovan Mitchell last year or not, there's enough footage that you could see where he was very successful against Donovan. And so, like, when I was watching it, I'm like, okay, he's giving him an opportunity. Now, could it have been Fox instead of Monk in the game? Sure, like, easily. But between those
That's the
two,
way Malik Monk was playing.
well, either way, but between those two, what do you have? Like 30 points and 15 assists. So those are becoming your primary playmakers, like in the backcourt with Mitchell and with Fox and Monk. But at the same time, like, he had to make a conscious decision to look over at De'Aaron Fox and say, like, look, I'm going to need you to close. Go in there for the last 2 minutes and close this thing out for me. But right now, let's get this kid some confidence and let's get him figuring out what we need from him and let him just go out and play.
Malik's been incredible, man.
Yes.
Malik has been really good. And it feels like you talk about Davion, and I 100% agree, Davion kind of finding his place, particularly over the last couple of games. Man, Malik Monk has been something special over this last stretch.
Yeah, I think it's crazy, too. Someone put out a stat, and I don't know who put it out originally, or, I like to give them their props, but someone put out a stat that Malik Monk leads the team in assist percentage. And that was, like, jarring. Like, really? And so I looked it up, and he's at, like, 31.7 assist percentage. That's crazy. For a guy coming off the bench and who's primarily like a no-holds-bar, like, 3-level scorer. So he's at 31.7. Sabonis is like 29.5, and Fox is like 28.7. And I know some people are like, hey, I think Fox needs to pass more. No. Like, look at this team. It's crazy. Like, assist percentage, they're one of the top teams in the league. Assists per game, they're one of the top teams in the league. They're moving the ball. Everyone's getting an opportunity. And so I don't think it's broke. So you don't need to try to fix that part of what's happening with the Kings. And this team will only get better. Again, the longer they play together, the better they're going to be. So, yeah, Monk has been absolutely outstanding. But you keep thinking he's just outstanding as a scorer. He's been really good defensively. Mike Brown said he's been, by their metrics, their best defensive like perimeter defender, and he rated him like a 91 on his scale of defenders in the league, which puts him in the top of like all guards in the league as far as defenders. Like he's brought a little bit of everything, and every once in a while he has an off game shooting or whatever, but it still feels like his energy, his sort of the joy he brings to the game, the other players feed off of him for sure.
Well, you know what, James, I kind of noticed something, and this is something that I didn't really take into consideration when they signed him. There's a leadership quality to Malik Monk that, maybe even something he didn't have that earlier because it's something, you had to grow into a little bit. But I feel it when he speaks, when he's out there on the court, the way he's constantly
when he speaks.
Yeah. He's even in the middle of the games, he's constantly communicating with his teammates. There's a leadership quality to him that I didn't bank on when they signed him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone knew that was there, except for maybe Fox. Him and Fox have spent so much time together in the past, and they're good friends. They were good friends since their time in Kentucky, but like they're guys who communicate all the time. Like they're not just like, yeah, I used to play with that guy, and we know each other type deal, which I've dealt with so many times here in Sacramento with guys that played with DeMarcus in college or wherever, and they thought that they would just like instantly like become friends with him again and figure things out. And that was never the case. It was always like this divide. But when it comes to Fox and Monk, like I think Monk has really helped put the smile back on De'Aaron Fox's face. And I think having that close friend, someone that you can rely on, someone that you can joke around with, someone who's going through a shared experience together, I think it's really paying huge dividends. And again, I didn't know Monk was as funny. Like he's super funny. He's like the prankster in the room. Like some of the stuff he does reminds me a little bit of Ty Lawson. People don't know Ty Lawson. Like while he had some, like he had some horrible shadowy, like things like that were tearing him to a dark place all the time. That guy was flat out hilarious, and he would do things like steal his teammates' underwear in the locker room, and they would come out from taking a shower and their underwear would be gone. So you got Costa Koufis standing there in the middle of the locker room filled with people. All the media's there going, who took my underwear again? And it was always Ty Lawson. Like there are certain guys that have this ability to really just keep things light and make things.
Not a visual I'm going to be able to get out of my head.
As an observer, I don't find that funny.
It was, and you look over and Ty's got this little sneaky look on his face. Yeah, like there are guys that the Kings have had on their team over the last like 13 years that I've covered the team that just like they lighten the mood, and a lot of times that it does get so dark here in Sacramento, and like things get so frustrating and overwhelming for some of these players, and to have those guys that can bring that personality, even like in Iman Shumpert, they can bring something different, even though most of the players had no idea what he was doing most of the time as far as like his comedy act. His comedy act was Eddie Murphy, and because he had Eddie Murphy's laugh down to a T, and none of the players knew who Eddie Murphy was. Yeah, the players didn't know who Eddie Murphy was at all. So he would do Coming to America lines, and I would be sitting there cracking up, and everyone else is like, what is he doing? Like, he's doing Coming to America. Do you not? Like, no, it's a generation thing.
Terrible. Well, you mentioned it gets dark here in Sacramento.
Oh my.
Yeah. What's Rashawn Holmes going to do now that it appears his career's over?
Jesus.
Wow.
What's Rashawn going to do now that it appears he's not going to play basketball anymore?
Like, look.
Okay. In all seriousness, can he get? Because I think the last time we talked, we were talking about Kim Rashawn. Is there a chance Rashawn he could play himself out of the lineup? He hasn't seen the floor since I asked you that question.
No, I mean, I thought it was possible the whole time, and it's about 100% buy-in here. It's about going out there and doing things. You know what? Like, this is what it is.
You don't think he's bought in?
I don't know. Like, you can be bought in as a player, but unless you buy in the game action into 100% into what you need to be doing, and I'm not saying that he's like bucking the system and he's like being defiant, What I'm saying is that like a light bulb went on in Chimezie Metu's head. Like he shot 12 shots over, I don't even, what are we at now? Over the last 5 games, what has he shot? Like 14 or 15 total shots. Well, last year that's not what he did, and that's what made him like an inefficient player that you couldn't really have on the court. Sure, he's going to play a bunch of minutes on a bad team. That's fine. But when a team has aspirations to not be bad, Chimezie Metu has to play within the very strict confines of what his role is. And he can grow from that, but he needs to start with what's being asked. And that's what it feels like. We're not at that point where Richaun Holmes knows or has an understanding of what the expectations is for him, like each and every night. Like you have to start here, and you're not going to get all these pick and rolls. So if you can't be effective without a pick and roll, well, then you can't play. So figure out a way to be effective and what the game plan is. And so I'm hoping that Rich figures it out, because realistically, like he is a guy that has been a heart and soul for this team for a long time. But you know, again, it's a different group of guys, and there's a different heart and soul, and it's Malik Monk at this point.
There's no way he can't. He's got 2. There's no way he can't figure it out.
I hope so.
I don't know how long it's going to take for him. Or someone brought up Dwayne Dedmon. I was like, man, did Richaun get Dwayne Dedmon? Did he? Did Richaun? Did what happened to Richaun, or what Richaun did to Dwayne Dedmon just happened to him by Trey Lyles and Chimezie Metu?
I don't know, because I don't think anyone has played so astronomically better that they have to have the minutes. But again,
Trey Lyles played really good.
Well,
Trey Lyles got to be part of the rotation.
Okay, you guys, like you can look at Trey Lyles' stats, and you can say, oh, he's played really good. He's played really good every other game. Mm-hmm. And so, like, while we harp on Harrison Barnes for having 0-point games or 2-point games, like Trey Lyles has had.
Are different.
I agree. Yeah.
And James, much like Harrison, these are the things I saw from Trey Lyles last year. Like he's doing the same things that I saw from him last year, where he was solid when given an opportunity. You know, he usually played well.
No, I totally agree. But my point would be, though, that, you know, like for every bit that we want to call Harrison out for having great games and bad games, you know, again, just looking at the last 6 games, Trey Lyles has scored 10 points, 6 points, 3 points, 15 points, 2 points, 16 points. Like there isn't the consistency there. And while I think he has played well for stretches, it's still like each of these guys, they're figuring out how they can be successful within Mike Brown's system. And then if they do it well enough, like they're getting a little bit more of an expanded role each and every time. And even Chimezie Metu, like going back to Metu, he took 5 shots last game. He goes 3 for 5. The 2 shots he didn't hit, were both 3-pointers, which I don't know if you guys remember. He was lined up for a third, wide open 3, and instead of shooting the 3, he got called for traveling because he realized, okay, I've already missed 2. If I miss a third, I'm probably not going to play. So let me play within the confines. His idea was to attack the paint, like they're taught to attack the paint and get someone else a better shot. Or if they let you go all the way to the basket, go ahead and score it. But attack the paint, draw the defense in, find a better shooter. And so again, that for me, it was growth. Even though he traveled, and I saw the travel right when he did it, it was that the thought process, he was doing the right thing. He made the wrong move, but doing the right thing. And again, I think like Lyles is doing the right thing most of the time. Even Mike Brown's comment about just like shoot the ball. Like that was a scouting report on him. If you run at him, just know he's going to pump fake and try to get by you. And he's like, why are you doing that? Just shoot the ball. You're too good of a shooter. Shoot it. And so we're seeing this group of coaches like try to put guys in the right position to succeed. It's just going to take a little while for everyone to get in the right position to succeed.
You reeled off some Trey Lyles numbers. The number I'm most concerned about is 10. That's the amount of quarters it's been since Richaun Holmes has played. Yeah. And I just have to imagine, and I feel for him because I really do, all jokes aside, like that's got to take a toll on you. And I don't know when he's going to get an opportunity. Like if it's clear, if you're not doing something that Mike wants you to do, you might not get that opportunity. Yeah. And I'll be interested to see, you know, Terrence Davis didn't play last game. You know, Terrence Davis is kind of one of those guys who's in and out. I'll be interested to see how that goes, you know, for the Lakers tonight. I still, I think the Kings got to play an A1 game tonight. I know the Lakers are bad, but Kings aren't good enough to look at a bad Lakers team. Like they need to consider this a great Lakers team. Stop that 3-pointers, get some points in the paint, and come back from LA with a win.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, Rashawn Holmes might be able to play some really good minutes against Damian Jones.
Okay.
Like,
I'll take that. Yeah.
That's your opportunity where he's probably a better matchup than Chimezie. He's a better matchup than Trey Lyles. Go out there and give me really good minutes against Damian Jones. Not James Wiseman minutes where every point that you score, Wiseman gets as well. Go out there and play some really, really solid minutes against a player that's similar to you. Show me that you can do it.
We've got to go. Do you think the bigger issue is the defensive end? The biggest issue with Rashawn is the defensive end?
No, it's everything.
Well,
Like,
damn.
yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, it's just
I got you.
He's in a funk, and you got to figure out a way to get him out, just like you did Davion, just like you did Harrison. You got to keep working to get a guy out of a funk.
Thanks so much for being with us today. Make sure you head over to the Kings Beat. Subscribe to the Kings Beat newsletter. Subscribe to the Kings Beat podcast. Subscribe to the D-Lo and KC podcast. Hit the thumbs up before you go on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on Twitter. We could have some good things coming your way following the game tonight. We appreciate you so much for being with us again. Happy Veterans Day. Have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend. Drink responsibly, and we'll see you here Monday at noon on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320.
Go Kings, beat LA.